This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, to paraphrase the great Reverend Al Sharpton at the convention and Psalms 35. We may be weeping at night, but joy comes in the morning. And the morning of joy is upon us. We've endured the conspiracy theories. We've endured Jan 6th. We've endured the criminality. We've endured the darkness. We've endured the campaign of Donald Trump, but joy comes in the morning, and that morning is upon us. I'm going to go over the September morning and all of the events in September at the intersection of law and politics so that you can follow it as a watching and listening guide, as a palm card about how Donald Trump is being brought to justice by the civil and criminal courts, and it's all coming to a head in September. Let's kick it off. September the 5th, there is going to be a hearing before Judge Chutkan, federal court, D.C., in the election interference case. At that time, the special counsel, Jack Smith, will stand and deliver. He will tell the court, tell Judge Chutkan how, with his recommendation, of course she makes her final decision, how the court should map onto the indictment, the 45-page indictment against Donald Trump for the 4 counts of crimes related to the failure to peacefully transfer power and the criminality around that, how this indictment should survive the Supreme Court's July 1st immunity decision. In other words, how does she take the meat grinder of the decision made by the United States Supreme Court and do a fact-finding exercise to have an indictment come out the other side that's valid and can go forward, rather than Jack Smith re-indicting. We don't want to go through the year-long process of a new indictment, although Jack Smith certainly could do it. None of the statute of limitations have run. But instead, how do you make this indictment survive? And so Jack Smith is going to stand before that court based on reporting that we now have, and he's not going to ask for the mini trial. I said earlier on Legal AF, I didn't think he was going to ask for a mini trial because that's going to delay things. The indictment's got to rise and fall on its own based on its own allegations. He's instead prepared to argue now with briefing to the Judge Chutkan how this indictment should survive, putting things to the separate categories now required by the United States Supreme Court. What is core constitutional conduct? Is there any that's alleged in the indictment? Because that's now absolutely immune. What is official conduct stretched to its outer boundaries? Is there any of that in the indictment? Because that's now immune and can't be used as evidence either to prove illicit, illegal conduct. And what falls into the bucket of non-immune, not immune, private, unofficial conduct. And I think he's got an action plan that he's going to implement in front of Judge Chutkan, and he's going to tell her exactly why most, if not all, of the indictment survives this exercise. That's on the 5th of September. She's going to ask for full briefing. I don't think she's going to have an evidentiary hearing in her mind either, where live witnesses come in, as delicious as that sounds, giving the Department of Justice an opportunity at a mini trial before the election. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. And I don't think Trump wants that either. And I don't think that's what the judge thinks she needs either, based on the instructions given to her by her bosses at the United States Supreme Court. So September 5, that is a milestone date. Keep an eye on it. We will follow it here on the MeidasTouch Network. She will ask for briefing. It'll go into October, and I think before November, she will make her decision about how to try that case moving forward. And that case will move forward between the election and the inauguration. That's the way that's going to work. Let's move on. Joy comes in the morning, September 16th. Just 11 days later, Judge Merchan, the state court judge in New York, is going to issue his immunity decision. That's a decision about how the immunity decision, the same one I just been talking about, issued by the Supreme Court on July the 1st, how that, if at all, impacts the conviction for 34 felony counts in New York that Donald Trump had imposed upon him by a jury findings, jury conclusions, based on his 2016 behavior before he was president. If it's before he was president, I don't see much of it being subject to the immunity decision. Even Trump's lawyers don't think much of it is subject to the immunity decision. All they're arguing is that there was certain small pieces of evidence, small incidental testimony on the fringe related to some people who moved into the White House with Donald Trump after his scheme to interfere with the election by paying off Stormy Daniels was a success. Now it's a criminal failure, but then it was a success. So there's some testimony by Hope Hicks, who became a very underqualified press secretary working for Donald Trump, and a woman, Madeleine Westerhout, who ran the calendar, who got to see President Trump in 2016. It's not the reason the jury convicted Donald Trump of 34 felony counts, given the mountains of evidence and all the testimony. And so just because that evidence came in, that'll be, I'm sure, found to be a harmless error, not reversible error, and the judge will find that on the 16th of September. 2 days later, I expect that Judge Merchan is going to sentence Donald Trump for the 34 felony convictions, and there could be jail time involved. And there should be jail time involved. And that's on the 18th. I know there's some speculation, including here on the MeidasTouch Network, about whether the judge just delays everything to let Donald Trump bring his inevitable appeal, state or federal court appeal. I don't think so. I think the judge sentences. I think the judge sentences, and the immunity issue is about evidence, and that whole thing, along with the conviction. If Donald Trump has a legitimate appeal, which he rarely does, he can take it all up at the same time in one fell swoop. No need for what's called an interlocutory or intermediary appeal. Take the full appeal after the judge sentences Donald Trump. He may suspend the sentence, especially if there's jail time involved, because he's not going to send Donald Trump to jail on the 16th of September, as delicious as that sounds. I think he's going to suspend that to allow for the appeal, but he's going to sentence Donald Trump on the 16th. That won't be televised, unfortunately, but we will cover it here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. That's on the 18th of September. Traditional bed sheets, they can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses, and it's just gross. Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning, antibacterial bedding, such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather. So you get better sleep every night. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo, LegalAF, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf and use the code LegalAF to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/legalaf to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. On the 26th of September, oral argument in the appellate court, the second highest appellate court in New York for Manhattan, which is the Appellate Division, First Department in Manhattan, will be hearing oral argument on full briefing about whether Donald Trump has to pay the $500 million with running with interest, civil fraud judgment, disgorgement judgment, and all the other remedies that the judge imposed. There's a financial monitor that sits on top of Donald Trump's organization for the last 2 years. There's a compliance director, independent, that sits on top of Donald Trump's businesses for the last year. There's banning Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Don Jr. from ever being New York corporation leaders or officers again, them ever doing banking in New York again, them ever doing real estate transactions in New York again. And for all intents and purposes, the Trump organization hasn't done a darn thing of new business in the last 2 years ever since this judgment came down. They're living off of old money, and old weird money, selling sneakers, selling Bibles, selling trading cards, unsustainable money. The suckers bet. That drops off as soon as he gets convicted again and or doesn't get elected. See how fast people run away from Donald Trump when he's just a failed 2-time loser, running for election again, losing again. and now is pushing 80 down in Florida and a criminal. Good luck. So that's on the 26th of September. So we got a very, very busy September. Now, the appellate court's not going to rule from the bench on the 26th. We're probably not going to get a ruling, and I practice law in New York, for probably 4 to 6 months after that. So that's going to be probably after the inauguration. But don't worry, there's a $175 million bond running with interest that's been posted by Donald Trump and all of his buildings. So if at the end of the appeal, Donald Trump doesn't like the result here, he can take it up to the highest court in New York, the Court of Appeals. And if he loses there, that's done. So like a year from now, he's going to end up having to pay off this $500 million judgment that's running with 9% interest, compounded, right? And he knows that. He'll have to come up with the cash. The bonding company backs out. Bonding company doesn't put up the money. The bonding money only secures the payment of the judgment. But Donald Trump's got to pay it with his own money. He's going to have to sell a building, turn over the keys to Trump Tower or one of the 40 Wall Street or Mar-a-Lago or whatever he's got to do to pay off this $500 million judgment. That's the joy that's coming in September. That's just September. So a lot of people were thinking, God, it was a slow law and politics news summer, wasn't it, Popok? No, it wasn't. Things were being briefed. We were reporting about developments along the way. The Supreme Court woke up from its slumber, even though it doesn't come back to its new term till October, and made emergency rulings, primarily on, again, what else? Voting or abortion or anything else that rocks our world. That's when they seem to get the band back together again during the summer. We're out of the summer, folks. We're out of the summer. And as I said at the top, the Psalms 35, in the morning, there is joy, and that's what we're watching. We saw it on display, genuine, heartfelt joy at the convention, joy for Kamala Harris, joy for the American people. To paraphrase Adam Kinzinger, voting for Kamala Harris doesn't make you a Democrat. It makes you a patriot. That's where we're at now, against a very tiny, small, ever-shrinking Donald Trump and his support. We've got a patriot that's always been for the people in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And that's what gets Donald Trump and his fellow followers goat. These two never took private money. They've always been in the public eye. Tim Walz went from, public school teacher, public school football coach, National Guard for 24 years, congressperson, governor. He didn't go work in Silicon Valley for some hedge fund. What about our next president, Kamala Harris? I don't know, a graduate from law school, prosecutor, public, attorney, served on some committees, public for the people, attorney general, public, vice president of the United States, public. She never worked she never even went into a think tank. She's always been Kamala for the people, and we got to be for her. And that's why I'm reporting about what we got to look forward to in September. We'll follow it all at the intersection of law and politics right here on the MeidasTouch Network. You can follow me, Michael Popok, at all things social media, at MS Popok, and then on our podcast. Sure, we named it Legal AF for a reason. Now you know why. If you don't, join us on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and watch us live record the podcast. And you can live chat with the hosts. If you don't like your podcast live or video, go pick us up everywhere you pick up audio podcasts from by plugging in Legal AF into that platform. And then I do hot takes like this, I don't know, about every day on the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.